We will now commence the meeting. The first matter that we have on the agenda is that of Shaw School, and this is at 1 Blue Street, North Sydney, and it is for alterations and additions, in particular to the boarding house facility. We don't have anybody registered for this matter. I would like to note that we have received a written submission in respect of this matter from Ms. Sandra Robinson, the consultant town planner, and we as panel members have all read that written submission, and we don't have anyone here registered to speak to that matter. We will be deliberating on all the items on the agenda at the close of the public meeting, and our decisions will be notified through North Sydney's website by the end of this week. So that is the first item that we will determine in the next session. So the item number 2 we'll move to, which is 28 Fitzroy Street, Kirribilli. Alterations and additions to a terrace dwelling, including a 3-level rear extension. I don't have anyone registered to speak on this. I'll just confirm. No, nobody registered to speak, and no written submissions on this one. So this is a matter that we will determine in our private session. The next matter on the agenda is item number 3, and it's 182 Carrabba Road, Carrabba Point. This is alterations and additions to convert a duplex into a residential flat building with strata subdivision. And I do have people registered to speak, and we have received a number of 4 written submissions as well on this matter, and we have 3 people registered to speak. And if I could ask for David Foti to be invited into the meeting. All 3 are in now, I understand. Mr. David Foti?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you for your time, and congratulations on getting this new platform going as well. Look, we only bought our apartment at on the other side of the road at 143, almost just short of 2 years ago. The apartment cost us $855,000. It's very small. It's only 43 square metres. It's a bit more if you add in the car space and the balcony. In total, it's about 56 square metres, but the living room is only, that space we live in is 43 square metres. Now, the value of this property is its views. There is no other value. The views are the value. It's 2 rooms. It's a 1-bedder, 2 rooms, which includes a kitchen and a very small bathroom. Now, we bought it with the assurance, and we did the research. We contacted North Sydney Council, and we did the research, and the reason we bought it was because we had that safety net of North Sydney Local Environmental Plan from 2013, which gave us a restriction of 12 metres at the property across the road. So that gave us the assurance to go ahead with the purchase of this. Now, we haven't got an issue with the development. The DA is higher than the current building. I appreciate that. But we do really want council to reinforce and keep to that restriction. That 12-metre restriction is really what we're asking you to really reinforce and to hold to. I also ask you to consider that if that isn't strictly held to, then the neighbouring properties, the developer moves in there and can then use this property as an example to take away more of our view. So that's what I'm concerned about, the 12-metre restriction not being compliant. In this case, I ask that it is please reinforced, and you know, if you can please make sure that we are safeguarded against this excess of height.
Mr. Foti, could I first of all ask any of the panel whether they have any questions of Mr. Foti?
No.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
No, no, thank you. Now, is Ken Robinson muted? He's muted on mine. Okay, we're just unmuting him. Mr. Foti, thank you. And we have also, as I indicated earlier, read your submissions, and we will be seriously considering all submissions made before we make a determination later in the day. So thank you, Mr. Foti.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we'll now move to the next speaker, Paul and Atenay Lakatos.
Thank you. Am I muted or unmuted?
You're unmuted, yes.
Very well, thank you very much. We live in 176 Carrabba Road, which is in the unfortunate position of being on the lower side of the proposed development. So we're a smaller two-bedroom residence of heritage listing, but also far lower than the existing development and the proposed development. That leads to these issues in our minds. Firstly, the proposed development has a significant extension to the east, that is to say towards the water or to the Cremorne area. As to the first floor, it's something, and these are my rough measurements, something in the order of 4.5% going out towards the water, and on the ground floor and the lower ground floor, something greater than 12%. That has the effect of realigning the new development within the same alignment as our home, which has significant effects on our privacy because we have a deck and a living area about the areas where those extensions occur. That's the first point. In terms of the second point, looking at the plans for the windows, I pass over the lower ground because that's below the fence line and there are windows there. But so far as the low ground LG, that is to say the second story, that has 4 windows by my reading of the plans and 2 doors, all of which are glass as I understand the plans. Then the ground floor has either 4 or 5 windows and 1 door, again glass by my reading of the plans. The proposed first floor has a similar configuration, and the second floor doesn't concern us quite so much because it's well way above us. Now, all of those windows align with our living area, our deck, and 2 of our bedrooms, so that there is a view either looking down or in some cases looking directly across into the areas which we normally inhabit in this house. So therefore, again, that's a significant privacy concern so far as we're concerned. In addition, there are 2 large new windows which weren't in the existing development and a sliding door somewhat further back from the windows that I've just mentioned, which is about halfway down the proposed development. Again, there are privacy issues which affect us, we think. The height breach, whilst it's minimal, it appears, on the northeastern corner, again is a matter which affects us directly more than anybody else. The fact that there's a slight breach of the 12-metre limit perhaps is neither here nor there generally, but that is at the very corner where all of these issues which we're having also appears to coincide. Now, the report talks about louvers providing privacy. Now, that might be right to some extent. My reading of it, and I'm not a builder, is that the louvers certainly will grant privacy to the new development. But in terms of they being able to look out upon us, it'll certainly cut down some of what they can see. But if they have any view outside those louvers, the existing invasion of our privacy as we see it would not be remediated. In the report, and I can give you page references if you wish, but I won't bore you with them unless you want me to. At page 19 and following, it talks about the separation between the developments being achieved by a wide right-of-way, privacy screens proposed, landscaping, which increases the level of visual and acoustic privacy. The wide right-of-way is somewhat illusory in the sense that that is a clear space, so that whilst it gives you distance, there's no impediment between this building and that as it's currently put at the moment. The privacy screens and the landscaping are difficult to discern. At pages 100 and 101 of the report, the council report, it has a landscaping plan which is referred to, which is unhelpfully redacted in the parts which appear to indicate where the planting might go on the northern side of the development. So it's a bit hard to know precisely what the landscaping would do for our privacy. We have an earlier version of a photograph of the development which shows trees or shrubs, I'm guesstimating 1 or 2 to 3 metres tall. It's hard to know, but at the moment we are none the wiser as to what the landscaping is. If there were in fact vegetation and greenery there of a height sufficient to cut out a lot of the views, that would alleviate many of our concerns. And finally, can I say, the position of the balconies, again at the northeastern corner of the development, are again probably nothing to complain about if it looks out to the east, but it also has a portion of it looking out to the northeast, again directly over the living area where we live. So in short order, in conclusion, our view is this: it's a larger footprint than the building that's currently there. It's of a greater height in many respects. It has more occupants than the present situation, from two units essentially to 4. It's closer to our boundaries. It has a similar building alignment on the east side. There are more doors and windows overlooking our house. And there, can I say, there is no opportunity for us to mitigate that privacy issue because unfortunately, our residence is very, very proximate to the right of way, which is shown there, and we're simply not capable of planting or erecting anything which would protect our privacy from our side. So look, those are our concerns. There's one other issue I should raise. There was an offer of a site visit which was made to us on the 10th of April, and we took it up on the 13th of April. I'm curious, will there be a site visit or not? Or has that just gone by the board due to COVID?
That is a matter that we hear your submission and we'll discuss that request at a later point.
Okay.
As I said, I know that we've all inspected the sites and have walked around. There's the opportunity of many driveways in that area, so we certainly got an appreciation of the subdivision pattern. So whether we require a site inspection or whether we can rely on documentation, at this stage, we'll discuss that following this meeting.
Well, the last thing I'll say about that, though, is that you would get a better sense of what we lose if you come and look from inside our premises. So I'd ask you to throw that into your considerations after you go and consider what you're going to do.
Okay, can I just say, are there photographs that we can avail ourselves of that you've sent in from there?
Look, I'm not sure we've sent it, but we can send it. We've certainly got them. We just didn't quite know how to go about it. This is all new to us.
Yeah, this is a new time for all of us, I can assure you. It's very difficult to receive documentation. Yes, Annalise.
Sorry to interrupt. Would it be possible for the objector speaking now to take his laptop and just show it now what is
very, very good suggestion. Yes, thank you.
I can. So, can I say, I'm not sure, you may get, now where are we? You're just getting bright lights up the top, so very hard to see.
I can see your window,
yep.
And I can see a fence,
yep.
And I can see it's on top of a retaining wall, sandstone retaining wall.
Correct, and the first floor is the part of the building, the brick part that you see there. Again, looking down from, it's very hard, I know. Perhaps the better sense it would be from the deck, because that will show you at least the levels.
Very well. So is the room you're in at the moment the one that you're concerned about privacy in?
Yep, it is.
Yep.
That's a major one, yes.
Okay, rightio. So if we can go to the deck, that would be useful.
I don't know. So you see the bottom of the building there is currently further to the west than it currently will be. So the alignment of the entire building will be where the first floor starts.
Yep. you there?
We'll be looking at each other's verandas very, very closely. Now, the distance is appreciable, that's certainly true, but there's not much in between us, which stops us looking at each other.
Okay.
So that's probably the best sense of it. There are others. So, I mean, we sit down in rooms and we can look up in windows and they can look down at us, but I think...
So could you just show me your view from out the front of your property now, just behind you?
This one?
Yep.
Do you see
Thank
it?
you. Okay, so just put it down a little. I can only mainly see the sky. Okay, righty-o. Thank you. Okay, and then just pan back to the existing building next door now.
Jan, I can't see what's being shown. It must be, have I been?
I could see it.
Getting the talk to come up.
Could you do that once again?
Sure.
Yes.
Have you
That's
got...
better.
Can you see that, Annalise?
Yes, I can see that.
All
Yep.
right.
Okay. So
I'll pan towards the development site.
okay, and just drop it a little bit. Drop it a tiny bit. Okay. Okay. Right. That's better. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, but he has to talk because otherwise we see you, Jan.
All right.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, look, I'll keep talking as I pan. And I'm panning now. My commentary is not very interesting, but here it is. So I'm now, I think I should have the building, the present development in sight. Is that sufficient?
Yeah. And you're saying that the building comes out to where the overhang is now, is that?
That's my reading of the plans. I'm no architect, but that's what it appears to be. In fact, perhaps even further down the bottom, but down the bottom perhaps doesn't matter quite so much because there's a fence line there for us.
All right, that's good. That makes it
Good. Thank you very much. That was most useful. Thank you.
Right. Well, it's probably not as good as looking at it, but at least it's something.
Yeah, it certainly is. And have any of the other panel members got a question?
Just one question, Madam Chair. You said that you had difficulty reading the landscape plans, although the plans that I have in front of me show significant landscaping between you and the development. You don't have those plans, or?
Can I? I'll go by the page references that I've got. At page 100 and 101 of the bundle that I got from the council, I think those were the ones. A large part of it was redacted, and a lot of the writing is so small as to be extremely hard to read. And it's not clear to me how tall these plants or shrubs are or would be. Let me just check my notes again as to the where are we? Sorry. I think I've now mucked up my papers. Look, I had a reference. And I had a reference to the landscaping. I thought it was 100 and 101, but let me have a look.
I mean, the point of the question is that there has been a significant effort, I think, from a landscape point of view, to protect you from that view of the neighbour.
Yeah. Look, that may well be so. I think my only point is really that the material with which we were supplied did not make it evident to us in a comprehensible way. So it may be right. So I just, but when I looked at the plan, there was a large bit in black blotted out, and there's little writing which even the magnifying glass couldn't help me with. Perhaps it's my eyes. Anyway.
Did you get the plan? Sorry, did you get the plans from the council website or from the council itself?
No. This is the material, I think, prepared by Mr. Mossanier.
Was it downloaded from the site? Or?
It was a link which gave us the NSLPP meeting held on 1 April 2020 with attachments, and there's about 136 pages of attachments.
So it's the same report here.
Excuse me.
Yes, we've got those plans on the screen now.
Yeah.
Are they the ones that you're referring to?
Let me just check that, please. They look similar.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, they look. I'm sorry. Yes, they are.
They are?
That's
Right.
yeah. They're the ones.
Okay. That's good that we've identified them because they form part of the record. Thank you.
Again, looking at the top plan on page 100, that seemed to me that the redaction part had blotted out a lot of what might have been vegetation. So
I think that's correct, actually.
yes, so we were left wondering as to whether we're going to have mulberry bushes or oak trees.
Neither, I hope. So we will certainly look at that very carefully.
Can I just ask a question? When you showed us the relationship between your property and the proposal, what level in the proposal relates to what you were showing? So if I go to the attachments, page 84, proposed lower ground floor plan upper, is that the one that would be what we were looking at, i.e. the one that's under the extension of the building that exists now?
What page number was that again?
Yeah, I think 84.
84. We'll just get 84 up.
So it's the proposed lower ground floor plan. I'm just wanted to clarify if that's the relationship between your floor is to that floor.
That I think would be ground level. So that means that ground level would be our ground level, but our house is lower. So that would be sitting, well, hang on. So let me just turn this
Lower ground floor plan upper. That's what the plan's
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because the lower ground floor, lower, I think is the excavation part.
Yeah.
So I think the upper is what would have been sitting on the current level. And so what we're looking at there, I think you're right, is the lower ground floor upper.
Okay, and so your concern is about the relationship to that balcony.
Correct. And for that matter, the one above it.
So it's the bulk of it or the privacy issues resulting from it, from the balcony?
Look, primarily the privacy. I mean, we're not in favour of big, but it may be the order of the day, given high density and all of that. But ultimately, it's the privacy issue for us because, with more units, more families and closer windows to us, it's the privacy, I think, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
And it would be appropriate screening?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please? I didn't catch.
Would that be addressed by some form of appropriate screening in addition to the landscape?
Well, look, it may well do. We wait and see. It could be, it may well do.
All right, thank you.
Very well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And as I said, we will be making a decision later and it'll be available hopefully by the end of the week. And we do thank you for persevering with our problems here.
Well, thanks for hearing me out.
We're trying to make sure this is as transparent as possible and in accordance with all the legislation.
I understand.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We now invite the, yep. So Mr. David Rami.
Yes, that's right.
Right, thank you, Mr. Rami. Now, what I always do is invite the applicants to address the concerns that they've heard from the neighbours' objectors, and in the first instance, and then you can make your presentation to us. Yes? Thank you.
Well, I'm here mainly to answer any questions, but just addressing some of the issues that were raised. 143, the view loss. I think if you look at the view loss analysis that we sent, you'll find that his view loss is insignificant compared to the view that he actually has of the harbour.
You're referring now to the owner of one. Yes.
number 143.
Yes, 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 thank you.
So if you look at the view loss analysis that we sent from his balcony, you'll see that he's got 180-degree views of the harbour and water, etc. And our building is very insignificant in comparison. Going to the issues with 176, look, we're very conscious of the privacy, and what is a privacy concern for him is also going to be a privacy concern for us, because it's a two-way thing. We don't want privacy problems, just as he doesn't want privacy issues. I think we've tried to address most of that with the landscaping. I think the landscaping has improved what's there currently.
So could you, one moment, could you just describe that landscaping that'll be intervening?
I'm trying to look at the landscape plan. This is plan number 2, which shows the landscaping that's going to be added on the eastern boundary.
What are the species proposed for there?
Just having to look. I have to check the schedule to be exactly sure.
Perhaps we could come back to that.
Looks
Sorry?
like lily pillies.
Lily pillies, okay. What sort of lily pillies?
Resilience lily pillies. They're 3 metre. I think they're 3 metre high. Fully
Okay.
grown. That's something.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Yes, continue on.
Yeah, and so.
Sorry, Annalise has got one moment. There's another question. Yes, Annalise?
So in relation to those lily pillies, they would be planted at ground level, so they would effectively go about a bit over a metre above the fence. So they would be at lower ground level, lower. Whereas the privacy issues, as I understand it, are more from lower ground floor upper and also the ground floor. So they would not do anything, I think, in terms of mitigating privacy. And there's also principles that you don't rely on vegetation to mitigate privacy alone. So in relation to the lower ground floor upper and the ground floor, which is to those sort of terrace areas, I think you can see it most clearly on the north elevation, which is page 91 in the attachment. Presumably you need some sort of screening along those that balcony, those terrace areas. Do you have any comments on that?
Well, if they're the lily pillies are 3 metres, so they're going to be at least 1.5 metres above the fence line. So they're probably going to improve the lower ground privacy issues.
Yeah, the lower ground lower which has got a fence in between it as well,
Okay.
which is below the level of the objector's property. It'll be more an issue of the objector being able to look into that lower level than a concern for them.
If you look at the existing building at ground and level 1, you'll find that most of those windows already exist on that side. So we're not actually changing the status quo.
Well, we're not necessarily about whether you're changing status
Okay.
quo. We're about assessing a development for major changes to a building. So it's
Yeah.
I think that there's also proposed, and you can comment on this, obscure glazing to about 1.5 for those windows.
Yeah, that's right. Plus, there's also some louvers there as well.
And are they fixed louvers?
Yeah, they would be fixed louvers.
There's no louvers, as I understand it, on the lower ground floor upper. So would you be content to have some louvers there?
I don't believe that it's an issue there because it's too far down to be you're looking at his fence basically from fence.
So we're talking about lower ground floor upper, which the adjoining owner showed us in the video is almost a level relationship with his property. So that's where you're going to have a balcony, as I understand it.
The balcony's on the far east side, and we're happy to have some screening there because we don't want, like I said, we don't want to have a privacy issue on our balconies either. So I'm happy to have some screening on that balcony edge.
Yeah, on the north side.
On the north side, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. We've got no problem with that.
Okay.
That's probably preferable, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Do any other panel members have a question?
No, I'd like to support Annalisa's direction there. I think additional screening could be beneficial on both sides.
Yeah. Yes. And Mr. Rami, is there anything further you wish to address the panel on?
I think that the DA conditions actually have really addressed most of those issues that have been raised by the neighbours. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you very much. We'll be making a determination later and it'll be available on the website for you.
Thank you.
And for everybody that made a submission. We'll now move on to the next item. Oh yes, could you please leave the call, Mr. Rami? Yes, Primero. Yes, thank you. Yep. Very well, we're now moving on to item number 4, and this is 1/146 Carrabba Road, Carrabba Point, and this is a heritage item, and we note that there has been advice from the Heritage Office. I do have Prue Murdoch registered to speak, the architect applicant, and we note her written submission in respect to this matter. So we'll bring Prue Murdoch in. Thank you.
Hello, I believe you can hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Would you like me to make my presentation now to the panel?
Yes, you're aware of there has been objections to this property as well.
No, I'm not aware there's been objections.
Sorry? Oh, sorry, the one submission was from yourself. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, okay.
Excellent. Thank you. I do wish to thank the council staff and the panel for their attention to the application, particularly during these challenging times, and I appreciate everyone's time and effort today particularly. As well as the applicant and architect for the proposal, along with my husband, I'm the owner, and with my family, residents of the property. I speak today representing my husband, Colin Murdoch, and family. I'm also currently chair of the Properties Strata Owners Corporation and take a pivotal role in establishing and managing the strategy of conservation for Hollowforth. I have a commitment to heritage conservation, and as an architect, consider it is my professional duty to consider good design along with a conservation strategy. With these two aspects working together and in balance, I have confidence in a sustainable future for Hollowforth. For its current owners, future owners, occupants, neighbours, and for the larger community. I have consulted widely with the Council and the Heritage Council in respect of the proposal before you today. I'm pleased with the support of the project as outlined in the officer's report and the recommendation, particularly as revised and noted, thank you, in the officer's addendum dated yesterday. I am, however, obviously disappointed that the Heritage Council did not support key elements. Along with our heritage consultant, Mr. John Altram, we believe that all components of the proposal reflect a design that achieves an appropriate balance between sensitivity to context, character and heritage values, as well as the need for effective functional spaces within a private living home environment. I appreciate the Council's support to the removal of the attic stair and the dormer windows particularly, which is in difference to the Heritage Council, though I understand that this support is constrained in this particular instance by the general terms of approval from the Heritage Council. With the addendum to the Council's report to the panel, much of my concerns submitted in my 9th of April applicant submission are adequately addressed. So I won't speak to them all now, though of course I am happy to answer any questions or clarify any of those points I made if you feel there's a need for that following my presentation. There are just 3 points that I would like to mention. The first is with regard to page 4 and 5, where there is a list of elements of our proposal. I continue to be of the opinion that this is an outline list, and point out to the panel that the proposal includes a fuller extent of works, though I am confident that the conditions presented in with the recommendation do cover the full extent of work proposed as they're conditioned from A1 through to L11. My second point is a small one regarding the attachments, and I'm hoping the panel has seen my existing elevation of the south window, because I could not access it as attachment 2 referred to in the addendum.
Just speak up a little bit, sorry.
I just couldn't see when I was looking at the attachments, the council officer referred to my existing elevation being provided as an attachment number 2, but I couldn't see that today when I looked to the documents. It is part of my final submission. It appears on the last page of my submission.
Thank you.
The third point is in my table in several places, and they are pages 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 and 23 in the report and on the drawings that were stamped for the panel's information, or that were marked for the panel's information. The officer refers to delete dormer or deletion of dormer. His addendum covers part of my reason for mentioning this, and it covers well that the full condition 2 of the Heritage Council's general terms of approval should be referenced in full to include the reasons and advice so that they are read and fully understood. And that has been covered in the addendum, thank you. But my point that I make that wasn't covered to date yet, I believe, is that the general terms of approval do not state delete dormers or deletion of dormers. They simply list works that are not approved. And the reason I make this point is that on full reading of the reason and advice given in the general terms of approval, I believe there is provision for a future application to consider alternative attic dormers and or supplementary light and air to bedroom 1. So that is the reason why I raised that point. I thank
Sorry,
the
can I just clarify there? I'm not sure I'm completely with you, following you. Now, the general terms of approval you accept.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we can't do anything about those.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so what you're saying is the dormers go beyond, the deletion of the dormers go beyond that.
Well, my point is just that the general terms of approval were not worded to say delete dormers or that there is to be a deletion of dormers. And the reason, it states that the dorm, particularly with the attic dormers, it states that the dormers as detailed are not approved. And in the advice continues to give an option for alternative light and air to be considered. So I'm hopeful that in the future, should an opportunity arise for us to revisit the provision of providing greater light and air to those spaces which I feel desperately need it, that such a future application wouldn't stand in contradiction to one that is given that states that dormers are to be deleted, because
I
that's
understand
not
that.
what they say. That's
Right. Very well. Yes. Okay.
good. So I thank the council for their review to the description of the approval, for the approval description as outlined in the addendum, and the review to conditions. In conclusion, notwithstanding our disappointment with the position adopted by the Heritage Council, we are pleased to see a recommendation for approval for a proportion of the elements of the proposal and request the panel to approve them as recommended. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just inquire as to whether the other panel members have any questions. Annalise?
No questions.
Thank you. John?
No questions.
And Ken?
No questions.
Right, very well. Okay then. Thank you very much, Ms Murdoch. We'll be making a determination later today and it will be available on the internet. And thank you for your assistance.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for your time.
And I ask you to leave the meeting if you wouldn't mind.
Hopefully I can execute that, or Carly might be able to execute if I don't. Thank you
Right.
very much.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Right. Now we'll move on to the next item, which is item 5, and this is 49 Reynolds Street, Cremorne, and additions and alterations to a dwelling in the first floor extension, carport, swimming pool and landscaping. I have a number of people who wish to address us on this, and that is the owners and the architect. We also note that we have 3 written submissions that we have considered as well. And there was a request for a site inspection of a neighbouring property. And we will consider that later in our determination of it or consideration. Could I first of all invite Sasha Grieve?
Hi there, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I won't get into too much of the technical detail of our DA because our architect will speak to most of that. But I guess one of the things we've sort of faced is quite a challenging development in that our block is slightly sloping and does slope both to the side and to the front of the block. And in looking at what our family needed. We're a family of 5 with children who are growing into teenagers, and clearly we need, the additional space. And what we've sought to do is put forward, we think, a DA that allows us to live and harmoniously, even during these difficult times. It would have been nice to have had it done by now. But in approaching the DA and looking at the height restrictions and trying to work within those, we didn't take the approach which was to maximise our height at the front. We tried to keep the building in keeping with the rest of the street and the architectural heritage of our property and those that surround us. And so, the more modern flat roofed component is at the back of the property, not at the front. And we felt that was important, as I said, to keep that look and amenity. In doing so, we have, in certain points, I think, not being able to stay exactly within that envelope. But I think in looking at, the current suggestions from council, this is the second time that we have come back. We have revised from our original DA, and what we've put forward now, we believe is workable for us, minimises the impact on our neighbours. And in terms of impact, I think, for us, it's that balance between, what are material differences to our living conditions versus partial views, which are only of district in the distance. Whereas, reducing, heights in bedrooms to 2.3, we think is getting a little difficult for people to live on a daily basis with. So as I said, we're happy, and we have attempted to compromise along the way, but in trying to finalise this DA, I guess we're trying to work with council to put forward something that works for us on a long-term basis, and still minimises the impact on our neighbours.
Thank you. And Irene, did you wish to make a further comment?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Very well. Do the panel members have any questions?
No, thanks, Madam Chair.
Are we able to stay on and listen to our architect?
Yes, you can. Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. Very well. So we'll now go to your architect, Lloyd Ramsey. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for your time considering the proposal. Further to what Sasha has mentioned, I guess we'd like to request that the recommended conditions of consent B, C and E be reconsidered. The conditions are, I guess, in response to the submissions against the proposal, primarily relating to view loss from the rear of the property through the east side boundary. With the introduction of a hip roof and compliance with design modification A, these concerns will be partially alleviated. In regards to the box element question, I guess I'll firstly just address the design modification E. I think maybe there's been some confusion about what that material is, and there was mention of a bright blue box in one of the reports. The architectural intent is to provide an addition that doesn't aim to replicate or compete with the existing, but rather respond and connect to the existing fabric in a functional and contemporary way. The standing seam bronze cladding was selected to provide natural variation, therefore reducing the impact and bulk, and responding contextually by picking up tones from the terracotta roof tiles. I believe that's more appropriate selection than say a light grey sheet that blends in with the existing rendered wall below, for example. I also note that number 53, which is 2 blocks to the east, has a similar sort of box style to it generally, and flat roof and a dark grey standing seam cladding. In reference to design modification B and C, it all sort of ties in together, so I'll just discuss them together if that's okay. The existing ground floor sits approximately 1.5 meters below the pool terrace. So the appearance from the rear of the property is that of a 1.5-storey building, not of a full 2-storey building. The highest point on the northeast boundary sits at 7.65 metres above the natural ground level, which is under the 8.5 metre height plane. That's the box, just the box element. while the southeast corner of the box is at 7.1 metres above natural ground level. So, yeah, the first floor setback on the east boundary is currently at 1.68 metres, which I believe proportionately addresses the exceedance over the 7 metre height bracket, where the 2.5 metre setback is recommended. To increase the side setback of the box element further would result in a complete overhaul of the plan and lost opportunity to provide comfortable bedrooms for Sasha and Irene's young family as they move through high school. The site, as I mentioned, is compromised due to the natural topography and disconnection to the outdoor space. So, you know, the quality of the indoor space becomes a more critical factor. Further to this, reducing the height of the box element by 300 to achieve a 2400 ceiling height would stifle the proposal and provide little benefit in terms of access to views along the side boundary. The bedrooms are also south-facing, and the additional ceiling height would not only be provide better access to natural daylighting, but you know, more inspiring and comfortable place for the children, you know, as they get through their high school years. Just one more point: the additional view studies I provided to Lisa Kamali, which are referenced in the report, show the impact of the proposal on the views from the rear properties. And as you can see, that, you know, it doesn't really look like there's much of a view from those photos. You know, setting the building in 320 mil extra on that east boundary will not have much of an effect on that view, in my opinion. That's more or less my points. Yeah, thank you for your time again.
Well, we do have some questions of you, and I do need to mention that there was a request for this matter to be deferred to allow a neighbouring property to appreciate the concerns of the neighbouring property.
Sure.
And as you know, there are other objections as well. I do believe the panel does have some questions.
Yes.
Could I invite Mr. McInerney first of all to?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. Mr. Ramsey, looking at particularly at those B, C and D conditions, do you see any problems from an architectural building point of view, forgetting for a moment the spatial implications, but structurally, do you see any difficulty of achieving these suggested changes?
The change from the gable roof to the hip roof in that central section will have an impact on the box section.
Yep.
I'll need to explore that a bit further. That junction where the gutter is on the south side,
Yeah.
that won't work as I've indicated. But I guess second to that, the overall form isn't as strong. I mean, the box feature sort of worked well with the gable style roof in the centre to tie it together. Without that bearing, it's not as strong, I feel.
Okay.
In regards to the material, you know, we're happy to reconsider or finesse that as needed.
Right. Thanks,
No worries.
Mr. Ramsey.
Annalise?
No, not at the moment.
No. Ken?
Nothing from me.
No, I just, the deferred commencement condition, which is you've just commented on them, you have some difficulties with them, A, B, C, D and E, A, B, C, D. Andy, I think it was. But anyway, I suppose the difficulty is, and this would be a matter for the applicant, is that the design modifications are significant in terms of the description, which you've pointed out as well. And we wonder whether the applicant, you might like to consider whether you would prefer to have this matter deferred to another meeting to allow you to respond to those deferred commencement conditions, which have been imposed in many respects to mitigate adverse impacts on surrounding properties. And it just is it's a bit of a messy way to go with deferred commencement conditions, and now I can hear that you're not really embracing same. Whether the applicant or you as the architect would like to consider asking us to defer this to allow those plans to be submitted, and then they could be re-notified.
I'm not sure the best course of action here, really. I mean, there are sort of significant changes requested, and I guess a bit uncertain how they'll all work together at this point. What would you recommend from other proposals?
Well,
I mean, what are the options?
Well, we also have the problem about the, which is a stumbling block, the clause 4.6, and if that's not accepted, then that in itself is the death knell, so to speak. Having said that, if I'm just putting the options available to you and your clients. Having said that, if the panel was not minded to approve the application as we see it in the current plans, and if it was, I'm just putting these up as hypotheticals, and if the panel refused the application, you would always have the opportunity to come back under section 8.2 for a review, and you can submit amended plans through that process. Is it 8.2, Stephen? 8.2. Or alternatively, you might like to consider taking on board what you consider appropriate from the deferred commencement conditions and putting those into plans and submitting that under the 1DA as well. Either way, you can continue the DA, whether it be by an 8.2 review, or if we defer it today, then you can submit plans which you think might come to satisfying those requirements that we see in the deferred commencement.
I think it will have to be just getting onto the plans and taking it from there. So I guess that's defer.
So you would prefer us to defer consideration of it? Because you would also need a new clause 4.6 with any new plans, you understand that?
The height will still be...
But it has to be referenced, it has to refer to the actual plans. Yeah,
sure.
So you can't just carry it across, so to speak.
And if we were, just to clarify, if we were to carry on as it is and the panel were to approve it, that means we have to meet the requirements of all the design modifications or lodge a section 455 amendment.
Yeah, yes, and you also run the risk of perhaps the panel not considering that the deferred commencement is the way to go, and that other options need to be looked at and thought through. So, so in other words, you would have to ask us as a panel to formally defer the consideration of this DA to give you the opportunity of doing what you consider might be more acceptable, and come back with that and a new clause 4.6.
Sasha and Irene, what are your feelings on this?
Have we got the others on air at the moment? Yes.
Yeah, I guess my feelings are frustration around the whole process. I guess we're still unsure of where we're in breach of the height restrictions. And, you know, we're endeavouring to put forward a design that, as I said, meets the overall amenity of our area. Now, this is the second time we've submitted plans. I'm really not sure what we do from here.
I think the concern is, if you look at the council officer's report on page 14 and 15, it shows the height blanket diagrams. So there are controls that relate to height for your property, and those diagrams show the exceedance of the height control. So that's essentially a prohibition on your development unless you can satisfy the requirements of clause 4.6. Clause 4.6 is a way of varying development controls, and unless they're varied, they're essentially a prohibition. So the assessment that we have before us says that the clause 4.6 is not satisfied. That there, and it's not just for view, it's a range of issues in terms of bulk and scale, et cetera, et cetera. So what we have in front of us at the moment is an assessment that says, recommends to the panel that you don't determine it in its current form because clause 4.6 isn't. Technically, the only way we can do that, if we agree with that assessment, we can't actually approve it and impose deferred commencement conditions. All we can do is either refuse it in its current form, and in which case you would come back with an 8.2 application request, as Jan's outlined, or you can go away, you can request a deferment, you can go away and you can look at how you can better comply with the height control to reduce the bulk of that, of the sort of roof element. The box element to the rear, it does comply with the height control. And I think that's something that I recognise what your architect has said about that if you actually bring it in from the side, that you're going to actually have problems by getting the accommodation that you're needing. So that's something that I think the panel probably needs to have some discussions about, is what our opinion is about the bulk and scale of the box element at the rear. So, yeah. Jan, you might want to.
Yeah, so just to, that's exactly right, Annalise, and we're really saying that the report in front of us makes it very difficult for us to approve even what's there in that deferred commencement because of the complications or technicality of the 4.6 height variation. Look, you have two options. You could ask for it to be deferred so that you can come up with a plan that might more readily satisfy some of the concerns that are articulated there in the deferred commencement conditions, or we can proceed to determine it, but unfortunately it makes it difficult with the technical 4.6 clause, and we'd like to give you the opportunity of coming back so that it provides you with another opportunity.
I guess we don't really have a choice but to defer and see what we can come up with.
I can't impose that on you, but I'm just suggesting that is a way. And I know it's very disappointing, and I can assure you that the process at times can be frustrating. But I think in this instance it would be, I'm not here to advise you, but your architect is, so he can tell you. And then we would just ensure that it comes back to the next meeting as soon as possible, or to a meeting as soon as possible. Yep, yep. So So if I can go over to Mr. Ramsey now.
Yeah,
being
thanks
being
for
the
that.
applicant.
Yeah, well, considering there's no guarantee it will be approved with all the additional conditions and what we've stated and our intention, and you know, sort of the impossibility of bringing it in, and a lot of variables. I don't really see another path apart from deferring it. But Sasha and Irene.
Right. Okay, so on that basis, we will defer this matter to allow you the opportunity to put in amended plans, and they may require re-notification. I don't know, that's not a matter for me, but I'm just warning you that we will certainly ensure that it gets back to a panel meeting as soon as possible.
Jan, can I just ask the architect one quick question about the roof in its current form? I understand that you've probably done the gable roof, the angle of it to reflect the angle of the gables in the existing house.
Yes.
But is there one option that you could perhaps look at is having a lower pitch, in which case that would bring the height down but still maintain your gable form as opposed to a hip form. So it's really looking at how you can perhaps bring that down so it's less obtrusive or complies better with the height control. And whatever mechanisms you look at in terms of the box element to perhaps also make that more I mean, maybe John McInerney might have some comments on the box element that may help to assist in sort of making it less dominant.
Yes, Annalise, I think, though, we'd be better to move into our discussion after this to discuss all these various matters. It's quite a complex series of matters, and I think if we can, as the matter now will be deferred, I think we can adjust the current recommendation to indicate a joint position from the panel.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ramsey and Sasha and Irene Greb. Thank you. If you'd like to leave now, we will consider this matter in the private session. Thank you so much. And thank you for, I understand these are difficult times and if you're applicants in more ways than one. So thank you very, very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Afternoon, item number 6. And item number 6 is, sorry about that, Primrose Park, the tennis court deck. And we do have an addendum. I want to note the addendum and additional submissions that have been received in respect of this matter. So we have 8 written submissions and 2 registered speakers, although I believe that might be more now. Yes, okay. Very well. So we have, can I have the, is the list, Beth Radford is the objector, and I believe you are speaking on behalf of a number of others as well. So could I invite Beth into the room?
I'm here.
Good. Thank you, Beth. Mm-hmm.
Am I all right to speak?
You are, yes.
Great. Thank you for hearing our concerns. Our first objection is to the lack of notification given. The primary use of this building is as the Primrose Park Arts Centre, yet none of those involved with this centre were notified. We, the full-time professional artists who have long-term leases with council, were not notified by email or by post. The community groups who use the Art and Crafts Centre were not notified, and it is my understanding that the North Sydney Council officer who oversees our program was not notified either. Furthermore, Members of the local precinct groups I contacted were unaware of this DA. The DA signage was not put in a prominent position for members of the public to see, and the site visit for the 1st of April was cancelled due to COVID restrictions. It is our assertion that the provision for a period of community notification has not been satisfied and that there has been insufficient opportunity for the relevant stakeholders to properly consider this proposal. Our second main objection is that this proposal does not take into account the serious detrimental impacts this addition would have on the amenity of the artist studios. The studios are used by full-time artists who have access to them from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. This enormous deck would deprive the 2 studios below of almost all natural light and would also impact the adjacent studios. Natural light, as I'm sure you can appreciate, is a very important asset for an artist studio. Loss of privacy to the studios and increased noise are also major concern to the artist tenants, especially since the proposed use of the deck is not explained. Will it be used for something that will further impact the artist studios? Will there be groups of people using it? Is it for some sort of commercial enterprise? If so, will it be run by council or by the tennis club business that leases the adjacent courts from council? Who exactly is the applicant? Who are the architects applying on behalf of? Our third objection is that in recommending this DA for approval, the importance of the artist studios to the residents of the North Sydney area has not been considered. Artist studios are very much appreciated by the local community as they not only offer spaces for cultural engagement through art workshops, open days and programs, but because people in this North Sydney area are very proud of their local artists and local artists need places to work. In a recent North Sydney Arts and Cultural Plan survey, 70% of participants identified the need for artist studios. Despite this enormous popular interest in the arts and art studios, there are currently only 7 art studios managed by council, and this proposal would impact 6 of them. It is not in keeping with the wishes of the broader community to compromise the amenity of these important artist studios. Our final objection relates to the heritage status of the building. Throughout the document, the addition is described as relatively minor. We argue that a 25 square metre deck with glass balustrade on a 19th century heritage building is not relatively minor at all, but a drastic change to the exterior that hasn't been properly considered. The design proportions and detailing of this modern addition do not relate to the style, detail and period of the building. In summary, we strongly object to this proposal on the basis that there has been inadequate notification and community consultation. There will be a terrible impact on the amenity of the artist studios, and the importance of the artist studios to the local community has not been properly taken into consideration, and that the change to the outside of the heritage building is too drastic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your submission, and I will now ask you to leave the room. Hang on, you can listen in though. You can listen in to what else is said. So I'm just muting you now. Do any of the panel members have any questions? Annalise? Ken?
I think you have to. Oh, yes. Thanks, Madam Chair. I was just interested in Beth. Beth, you mentioned that you had no notice of it, but we understand that the council officers, the arts section of council, were aware of this application from, I think it was January or possibly February. So that the knowledge of the application existed in council, in the arts sector of council. Were you not aware at that time?
Aware at that time.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay then, rightio. Well, we'll go on to the next speaker now, and Robin Chee, the architect. Do we have any other objectors that are going to speak with us? No? Yep, okay. Robin Chee, thank you very much.
Yep, I was invited here to answer any design questions.
Well, I suppose the question I have, you heard what the objector had to say?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I guess the question is, was there an assessment of the natural light for the artists that are using the bottom floor of that heritage item?
So the deck outside, we had a look at this afternoon how we can reduce the I guess, the impact on the sunlight over the deck, and potentially we could reduce the size of the deck by making it, I guess, less wide and perhaps longer and hugging the public footpath side. So I guess, yeah, the reason for the deck was the tenant, their council wanted, the tenant has requested an external.
Can you just speak up? I'm sorry.
Yep. So
Yep.
the reason for the deck was the tenant wanted to request requested council to provide a external area for the tennis players that's waiting for their children to finish playing and things like that. So that's where the deck came from. And yeah, I mean, potentially we can minimize the size of the deck.
So is it just for the purpose of people waiting to pick up their children, to collect their children from after tennis lessons?
And I guess after, in between lessons as well, for the social aspect of the players. In between playing in between lessons for the tennis.
Okay. All right. But there was no assessment done in terms of the light that's currently received by those art studios before and after?
There are no shadow diagrams provided, no.
No. Okay. All right then. Okay, does anyone else have any questions?
Yes. Were there any, was there any investigation into options? At the moment, we're presented with a solution, which on the surface seems to be negative for the arts community and positive for the tennis people.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
One wonders if other options were investigated that might resolve that dilemma.
So one option was, so where the public footpath is in the tennis courts, dig up the side landscape embankment to provide a flat surface area. But because the soil is contaminated, we wanted to remove the need to remove soil and material off-site. And then there's another option we looked at this afternoon was, reduce the size of the deck to make it less wide. So it's further away from the existing building and more hugs the public footpath side.
Okay, thanks, Jo.
Okay, thank you very much. This matter, the panel will consider. Oh, Annalise, I'm sorry.
That's all right. So just so I understand, this deck is off what's called the tennis club office, but what is the office used for?
Oh, so right now there's a tenant occupying that office who runs the tennis courts, the Primrose Park tennis courts. So he's the instructor and trainer there, and he holds classes for the courts there. And so the
office area gets used by people that are waiting for what you just described before. Is that area
that's right.
used for that purpose?
Waiting, and there's currently change rooms in there as well. So change rooms and toilets, amenities inside the office.
And what sort of numbers of people are you talking about? Is it like 5 people, 20 people?
Oh, so I suppose a class there's 4 courts. So 4 courts in use. Around 10 people, I would say. Yeah.
But not all of those would necessarily wait. Like some people would just come up in time to play the game and leave straight after.
Yes, so that's something I have to discuss with the tenant.
Okay. So the reason why the area to the, I think it's to the east, across the footpath, that wasn't suitable purely because of contaminated soil.
That's part of it. Yes, and there's not really a place for people to sit down because that's solely circulation area. It's a traffic area.
Yeah, but if you were to the east of the path, you could still have the path, and then you could have an area that's, landscaped or like paved or whatever, presumably. But that's where you said it's got contaminated soil.
Yes. So east of the path, so that's what we were kind of referring to when I said, we'll make the deck less wide but longer. So hugging the east side of the path.
Oh, okay. So sorry. No, I'm talking. Sorry, I should be saying west. Sorry, I've got
Oh, west side. Yes. So that's all the the soil. It's like a very steep landscape embankment there. We'll also think of providing stairs in that area to go upwards towards the tennis courts.
So sorry, I didn't hear what your answer was to Annalise about how many people are you expecting to be congregated in this area at any one time?
I said it was around, I would guess around 10, but that number has to come from the tenant. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay, it just seems to me that there also would be a management plan for this park, and have we and you know how it fits in with that. So, okay then, rightio. I don't have any more questions. Does anyone else?
Yes.
No. Yes, Ken. Yes.
Just briefly. You've heard about the artist areas underneath the two windows beneath the deck, but on the other wall, which is the eastern side of your landing, if you like, there's a couple of windows down below there too. Are they used by anybody in particular? Are they used by artists as well? That lower ground floor. Beth is commenting, but she's muted.
Can we? Okay. Beth's been muted.
Yeah.
So we're just unmuting her. Yes, go ahead.
So those windows on the lower level, I think they're the bathrooms and change room area for the lower field.
Okay, so if you really wanted to move this whole platform further along and then had a connection between the doorway in the where the tennis people are and a ramp going to a platform, say 2 or 3 meters away from the windows that you're concerned about. I'm talking to. How would that fit in with the light question? Would you still be able to have enough light below, do you think, or what?
I think it would be a big improvement if there was a space between our windows and the proposed deck. I'd have to assess it at different times of day, but I think that would be an improvement, definitely. It might impact the upper level studios potentially because they're right there as well.
The windows would be slightly above where the deck would be. So
yes, that's true.
Okay.
But yeah, those lower level windows are just used for bathrooms.
Okay.
On that wall.
So that is an option for redesign if they want to go down that path. Okay.
Okay then, thank you. Well, we'll consider this matter later, and the panel's determination will be on the website as of Friday. Thank you all for participating in this matter. We'll now move to item number 7.
Cool, thanks.
So we've got the builder and architect also joining us for the site.
Okay, and what are their names? Antony? Sorry? Oh, okay. Niven, Zakia, and Anthony Chara. Yep. Okay. Right. Thank you very much. We've now moved to the next one, and just ignore my little phone, please. And 2A Cowdroy Avenue, Camaray. And I'd like to make note for the public meeting that we have received an additional 2 written submissions. And we have 5 speakers for this matter now, 2 late registrations. So I'll first of all go to a submitter, objector, Mr. Robert Fraser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I can't see you.
Thank you very much.
Is he there?
How do I fix that? How do I fix that?
No, that's all right. We're getting you up. Okay. Yep, I've got you now. Yep. Thank you very much. Yes.
Good.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There you are.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to address the panel. I'd also like to thank Robin C for the professional manner in which he's addressed our matters of concern to date. I'll keep my address very brief, as I will take my submission as being read.
Yes.
I have 4 remaining areas of concern outlined, which are outlined in the submission, written submission that I provided. The first one concerns the landscaping issue, and I think.
Sorry, can I just stop you there for one moment? And your interest in this property?
Yes, I'm sorry. My wife is the owner of number 6 Cowdray Avenue, which is the adjoining property to 2A Cowdray.
Right. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes. Come on.
And we are on the eastern side of the 2A Cowdray. So the first issue involves the landscaping, and I think that's pretty straightforward. The requests that we've made in the written submission simply take into account the specifics of the site, being the heights between the 2 properties at the moment and the existing vegetation, much of which was established under North Sydney Council's Native Havens program that we wish to retain. The second issue, so I won't dwell on that. The second issue involves the privacy created by the proposed new staircase, and I believe that issue is also relatively straightforward. I think the privacy screen that we've suggested there addresses the concern. It essentially just restores the screening that was previously in place before it was removed during the construction. And again, given the existing height differences between the 2 sites and the elevated nature of the staircase, the dimensions of the screen that we've proposed, which is just higher than what was recommended in the report, would better balance the objective of improving while minimising the visual impact.
And in that regard,
the third concern, which is I believe 2 meters would be appropriate. I think then the size of it wouldn't be overbearing, but it would.
Right. Okay.
Already about half a metre below. Yes. Thank you. The third aspect, which is the more substantial one for us, is the visual and the solar impact. We do not believe that the conclusion that is reached in the report is objectively supported when we look at the tenacity test factors. The proposed new covered deck on the eastern side, adjoining our property and facing directly into our kitchen, is negative in terms of 3 of the 4 tenacity tests, and I've noted that in the submission. If I could refer the panel, please, to photo 1 of our submission. This shows the impact of the proposed development taken from our kitchen. And
we're just getting that up right now.
Position. Thank you. It was taken in a standing position 1 metre from our kitchen window. Unlike the report in figure 15 of the report, figure 15 was not taken in the position as required 1 metre.
Okay, so just before you go on, we've got photo 1 there.
That's exactly right. So that's the loss of the skyline and light that would occur from our kitchen.
Yep.
And I said figure 15 in the report is not taken from that same position. And without repeating the tenacity factors, which I'm sure the panel knows better than I do, 3 of the 4 of those don't seem to result in negative outcomes when we look at that. I think the most important thing in terms of the tenacity test that we would like to submit is that the requirement or the suggestion that, quote, whether there's a more skillful design could provide the applicant with the same development potential and amenity and reduce the impact of the views on the neighbours. And we believe the alternative design that we've suggested in the submission achieves that objective. If the roof extension were confined to the central and western half of the deck, in other words, if the existing L shape of the deck was retained and the roof deck extended in the existing L shape on the western half, our view will still be impacted, but it would not be significant. Furthermore, there'd be no loss of amenity for the applicant because the main water view is to the north of the dwelling and the eastern side of the deck merely looks straight into our kitchen. In summary, the proposed roof addition and extension along 8 metres of the eastern side of the top floor from where there are minimal water views serves no practical purpose for the applicant, but has the most adverse impact on our property. Importantly, the compromise that we've suggested in respect of the design would also fully address our concerns regarding the solar impact. The report focuses only on the kitchen, and that's from where the photo was taken, where there are still views and solar access to the north. However, this is not the case for the 2 bedrooms on the level immediately below our kitchen. Here the solar impact is significant and one of the bedrooms has no northern facing window, and the affected western facing window is the only source of light for this room. This room would not receive the required 3 hours of sunlight in midwinter, which it does at present. This fact is not covered in the report, nor is it quantified in the shadow diagrams. The report only mentions the impact on our 3rd southern bedroom, but this is the least affected area. As noted above, the loss of light to our western facing bedroom would mean that it would not receive the required 3 hours of sunlight, which it does at present.
Can I just say that the reason why it may not have been or wasn't in the report was the fact that the solar access is not to the bedrooms, it's to living rooms in terms of maintaining solar access. Continue on, sorry.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you. Point 4 is finally, if the unauthorised, concerns the unauthorised solid masonry walls, which have been constructed on the top deck. If the unauthorised windows on the eastern top deck are to be removed, as proposed by the applicant, it is only sensible to also remove the solid unauthorised walls as they are no longer necessary. In summary, the alternative design we have suggested in our submission does not affect the amenity of the applicant, but would address all of our issues concerning views and solar access. We support all of the other recommendations in the report, and thank you again for the opportunity to address the panel.
Thank you. I'll just ask the panel members if they have any questions. Annalise? Sorry, can we hear Annalise, please? Yep.
On mute. She's on mute.
Yes, we're just getting her up.
No questions.
Oh, thank you. John?
Yes, a question on, I presume you've seen the addendum put forward by Robin C. to the applicant?
I don't believe I have, sir, because when I spoke to Robin this morning, he indicated that he had put in a further submission, but I have not had access to that.
I think it covers quite a number of your concerns, but not all of them. I don't quite know. It's a shame
can I just see this?
Am I able to access that online?
Can that be accessed online? It can be, yes. Showing it now. Yep. So could I ask you to look at that while we go to the other speakers, Mr. Fraser? I should have asked you that in the beginning, whether you'd read that. Could you now look at that document?
Sure how I'm on my mobile, so.
Right.
Yes. Is it accessible via website?
Yes, on the North Sydney website, it's accessible. The North Sydney Local Planning Panel.
I'll try and access that now. Thank you.
Okay, then, and then we'll come back to you. Thank you very much. And we're sending you the link in chat. Okay, so now I invite Dr. Wally Elwali.
Hello. Hi, thank you very much. I'm today here with you.
Yep.
I mean, I just want to address one of the things that Robert said just previously. It's about the height of the house. Actually, we are reducing the height of the house now. I think it's by ½ meter or something like that. And believe it or not, his house is higher than my house, about 1 meter. If you see the ceiling from the outside, it's very obvious to your eye that is his house ceiling, the top of the house is higher than my house, just to let him know that. Okay? The other things that, which I think the proposal that we changed a few things to, and we did all the shadowings to ensure that it is not affecting his house. And regarding the other room, which is to the side of the house, which is in the top floor, that room, actually, it was there before, and there was a ceiling to that room. So it's already there. I didn't have anything on the top, and I can show you the old, when we bought the house, it was already there. And there was actually, it was metal roof on the top of it. Okay, I don't mind removing the windows and the bifold door. That will be all accepted, and I think that will be something which is fine to be done.
Very well. Is that all you wish to raise with the panel?
For now, I have a few other issues, to be honest with you. I will possibly let the architect to talk about the details, but
okay, well, should we leave them to the architect, and if he doesn't address them, then I'll come back to you.
Okay, that will be fine. At the end, I will talk about it.
Yes. Did any of the panel members have a question? At this point, no. Very well. We'll go now to, oh, I've got another objector who I should have taken ahead of you. Oh, Mr. Hernan Hong. Mr. Hong?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Apologies for the video not working. I've just had technical
issues.
Fine. As you might be
not as many as we have. Anyway, go on.
So I'm the son of the owners of 2 Caldroy Avenue, which is currently being built at this stage. So the western property adjoining 2A Caldroy. Now, we still are halfway through our building, and so we still got a while way to go. But judging by what Robin's report has outlined in his report to you guys, I think it's I fully support everything that he's mentioned. In terms of the swimming pool deck, I believe it was unnecessary. It was an overbuilt section of the swimming pool and the surrounds. And we actually do have a covenant between 2A and ourselves where we have an easement where they're allowed to access the waterfront, whereby then they aren't allowed to build in a certain area towards the water. So that certain area is actually just after the swimming pool. So by extending the deck further past the swimming pool, it actually goes against the restrictive covenant, which was signed probably, well over 10, 20 years ago. Now, that's fully, I support Robin in his report in that sense. And in terms of the landscape plan, I also support Robin. The garage works as well. I agree that, it should be reduced from a double to a single with a carport as well. Now, the only objection that I have with Robin's report is the extension of the roof. Now, the existing house is well over the current building height restrictions of 8.5 meters. It's 10.5 at the moment. And by extending that roof, it's just increasing the height of the complete building overall. So again, it's an overbuilt space. In terms of view loss, there will obviously be a slight view loss towards the northeast skyline from our property, but a lot of this is, I guess, It's hard to say because our property hasn't been finished yet, but I assume that, you know, with the current building going on and with next door property to be finished, I think it'll affect us quite dramatically. So that on screen is the view loss of the current deck to be proposed. But Robin's report is saying that the deck should be completely deleted entirely, which I fully support.
Sorry, what was that?
So Robin's report says to delete the proposed swimming pool deck, which I support.
Okay, thank you very much. Good. Right, now move back to, do we have at your, oh yes, Mr. Libanzakia? Is that the architect? The architect? Thank you. And then after that, we've got Mr. Anthony Bachara. Sorry? All right, okay. Yeah, can we go to Mr. Bachara because we're having problems.
Can you hear me?
Yes, who's this?
It's Antoine.
Oh, Antoine? Yes,
I'm
okay.
I'm the designer.
Yep.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk on behalf of the owner and the applicant. Okay, we have an existing dwelling, and that existing dwelling has got an existing CDC to have some internal work inside. The original roof of the existing house has got problems, got leakage. That's why the owner had decided if we can adjust it, make it lower, and make it take it a little bit further to cover a little bit on top of the sliding door that leads to the patio, to the terrace. So that's what we done. Bear in mind that the original roof had the tiled roof and the tin roof on the left, on the right hand side, looking from the street towards the adjoining property, towards 6 Cowdroy Avenue. So there was an existing tinted roof there, and that tinted roof, it was always there, and no one had complained about the sun access, the privacy, the anything. Why now? As well, the roof is going now, as we said, 300 or 400 mil down lower. That's in terms of roof. In terms of garages, we always have carports there. From day one, the owner had bought that property. He had 2 carports, one on the left, one on the right. When we done the DA application, we had an inquiry to council, and council never said no. They said we have to achieve minimum setbacks, which we did. And during the assessment, that Robin asked to have more setbacks, so we set back more. Why now, at the end of the assessment, they're asking to have only 2 garages? Is that fair? So we done the inquiry. They said shouldn't be a problem because it's always been existing. All what we're doing, we're making it nicer and tidier. In terms of deck, I think the doctor is happy to remove that deck.
Sorry?
I believe that the doctor, the owner of that property, is happy to remove the deck. He doesn't want to extend it anymore.
The swimming pool deck?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. In terms of shadowing, I said it's an existing property. It's been always there. There was always been shadowing. And as you said yourself, the shadowing is not impacting directly the living area. It's only impacting on one of the bedrooms. In terms of landscaping, yes, we are going back to have the bamboo that used to be between the 2 neighbors. The bamboo is going to get replanted, or we're happy to have another privacy screening if we have to.
Very well. You finished?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bachara. Now, if we could now go to Mr. Zakia.
Is he there?
He's unmuted, so you're on air, Mr. Zakia.
Hello, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
I just need to talk about, we've got some, because
Sorry, could you just speak up a little bit?
Okay.
Could you ask the cleaner to?
What I heard yesterday, can you hear me?
Sorry?
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah, just speak up a little bit more. Yes, yes.
Okay. So on, we've been talking on the top roof and the balcony with the extension with that little, the little carport was existing there with tint roof. That's on our side between 2A corridor and number 6. So this one, it's been, as the architect said, it's an existing. And then because we've got 2 separate buildings there, it's an old and a new that weren't existing. And then we've got an extension joint right in between those 2 buildings. And that's why we're extending the roof from the back, just so we can cover the water leakage or any movement, because every time we had a movement slabs or anything like that, the expansion joint will open and start leaking down the bottom and then get affected the main area downstairs and collapse the roof, which is what happened now twice. That's first. And belong to the windows on the right hand side with the neighbor number 6 corridor, it's an existing windows. That's an existing. We haven't even touched it because we already got a CDC for it, but there hasn't even been extended or anything like that. It's stayed as it is. So no one has been touched it at all. And then we got on number 2, Corduroy Avenue, they've been talking about the deck. And then as my client, the owner of number 2, Corduroy Avenue, he said he is very happy to remove the deck. But if you go down to side and then you see where number 2's building is, as it is now, the won't even affect, they can't see from where they stand the water, because the deck is not even taking any view from anything at all. Because if he stand up on his slab and look toward sideways, you won't even see the water the way it is now without the deck. But beside of that, as I said, the top roof, we've got a problem. We extend it for one reason. It's not for fancy things or to affect any of our neighbors. We only did it for leaking problem. And beside the garages as well, it's been as a carport from day one as an existing. And what we're trying in the meantime, because we got our 2-bedroom downstairs, we got leaking from the street down into the garages, down to the rooms and the toilet down the bottom. So they come because the house, as you see on the plan, it's on steps. So all sandstone underneath, and all what we're trying to do, it's not like to affect anybody. We just try to support our problem, because we got leaking even downstairs from the garage, from that 2 carports. That's why we love to enclose them, because just to stop the water going down the bottom. And then Robin, as we sent the application 3-4 times, and then he said we can do it, but we need to register it. We can't go to the boundary line. And then we guys, okay, no problem. And then we did it. We sent it to him. He goes, we need more. I goes, okay, no problem. The architect, he worked more, and then he's done it. And now we got an email. All that situation and on the internet, it's been saying we only allow for 1 garage. Why? It's 2 existing. And all what we're trying to do, just to tidy it up, make the front of the street look nice and neat. And then we already did the setback more than the actual things we already had, more than the actual screen privacy we already had under those 2 shelters. So we already reduced it less.
Thank you very much. Now, we were going back to Mr. Hong. Mr. Wally, of all your questions, Miss Dr. Wally, of all your consultants provided the information you want.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I'm going to talk about the delay which will happen with this DA. It's not,
can I just say to you, that's not really something that is relevant to our consideration.
That's fine.
We have to look at the merits.
Yes, we have 41 amended until now, 41 sent to the for the DA. Now, my concern is that why we are not allowed to have another garage on the side of the carport. And also we don't have the entrance. If they're going to push the door back to the inside, okay? So what you are going to face, after 1 meter, you will have a downstairs and upstairs, and that's unsafe. Somebody is just opening the door and he will go straight away to the stairs down. And that's the reason we wanted to push the door more to the front, okay? To give us a safety distance so that people, they can look and they can see what's in front of them. That's the most important thing with the door. And also here we have, I think this residency actually is not one, it's two. According to the Supreme Court, which is in 1991. Okay, and that's very important because what they say here, no approval is given or implied, sorry, not this one, no approval granted or implied in the consent for the use of subject property to other one single occupancy. Why? We have that from the court, and the court accepted that, and they need to follow that, okay? If I want to do it as a separate 2 DAs, one for the flat, one for the residence, I can easily have 2 garages in both sides, and they are already there. I don't want to make things complicated. I just want to make things simple. And the reason that I want to extend the garage to continue with the kitchen, which is the room which will be to the side, so that we will have a kitchen, which is with the CDC, and there's an open to the outside, to the carport or to the garage now. Okay, I don't mind, but we need to have an open for that kitchen just in case. If you have any problems, you can have another escape from the kitchen, not from one side. I'm talking about a safety things, okay? Right. Which I think I don't mind if they accept to what I'm saying here. I can have the tenancy as well.
Okay, we've heard what you've had to say. Now I just need to go back to Mr. Robert Fraser, and I'll give someone from the applicant the opportunity to respond, because Mr. Fraser has now had the opportunity to read the addendum, and then you'll have the opportunity as the applicant to respond. Thank you, Mr. Fraser.
Thank you. And I have had very limited time, I'm sorry. However, I have managed to review that. It appears, as you stated, that the landscaping issues have been addressed in their entirety in the further submission from Robin. The only matter that I would further comment on would be in relation to the roof extension on the eastern side. I would still submit that the alternative design proposed would be a more of an acceptable solution. However, I acknowledge that the removal of the unauthorised wall, were the deck to be extended to the east side, I acknowledge that would be an improvement.
Thank you. Now I know the panel does have some questions, so I'm going to invite the panel to start off the questions.
Jan, I've got a question of the architect.
Yes.
Just in relation to the roof extension, as I understand what you were saying, that there was a previous tinted roof there. Was that flat, or was it, what shape was it?
Mr. Zakia?
Yes, it was a flat.
So in terms of what you're proposing with a hip reform, or hip reform, why do you need such a, which obviously is way above the height limit and increases the bulk of the proposal, why do you need that form? Why can't you just have address the issues of leaking, etc., and sun protection over your part of your terrace, why with a flat roof?
Am I talking myself?
Yes, you are.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm the architect. So as I said, yes, there was a tint roof there. It was a flat. It was added maybe separate to the actual original DA that's been granted back in the days, back in the 90s, I believe. Yes, while we're doing the roof now, because we're proposing to change the whole roof, re-roof it, because we have leakage at the moment in the actual roof itself for the secondary dwelling. So
you didn't answer Ms. Tour's question. Could you put that to him again? In fact, also in respect of the whole of the roof, or just in respect of that portion, Annalise?
Well, the question I was asking was just in relation to the bit that you're extending. Presumably that was where the tinted roof was, which was flat. Why don't you just replace that with another flat roof, which would reduce the bulk and more closely comply with the height control?
I'm happy if the owner if the owner wants it to be like this, I'm happy to replace it to be a tinted roof.
And also, just in terms of your replacing the existing roof, the tile roof, with now another
new one,
tile hip roof, and
yeah.
Why did you look at options of just doing a flat roof instead of that? Because obviously, again, it's way over the height limit, and your the extension that was done, I think, in the 90s is a flat roof, and you think architecturally they would relate better if they were sort of reflected, would look more contemporary and more modern. But I mean, that's obviously not something we can impose, but it's just a question.
That's something to the owner. It's not to me. If you ask me to design a flat roof, I'll design a flat roof. If you ask me to replace it with hip roof, then I have to replace it with hip roof. It's something to him. But bear in mind, as I said, the roof that we done, it's in terms of degrees, in terms of pitch, it's going lower than the existing at the moment.
Yeah.
By 300 or 400 mil, as we said. But if the owner is happy to do it as one big flat roof, again, I'm happy to do it. But again, the same way we are going to give him a flat roof, they have to accept our 2 garages if the owner would accept it as well.
Right, and then I just have a question of the owner. I mean, the council staff may be able to answer this, but it was in relation to, you mentioned something about the Supreme Court approved the 2 dwellings. Can you just, because my understanding is that the approval of the BA was for a single dwelling, not for 2 dwellings. So can either council staff or the owner, can someone just explain that?
And dual occupancies aren't permissible in the zone, yes?
Yes. I mean, the problem that here with the single and the 2 is that if I'm going to apply for the DA for a single tenancy, that will be fine because the person who's going to live is my daughter. So I don't mind with that. But the problem that if they're going to push me that, I just need to do all the things like the roof, reducing the roof. I'm already reducing the roof. Why should I have a flat roof? Okay, and it's already 2 tenancy. So the price of this house with 2 tenancy, I can sell one and I can keep the other one. Why should I do?
The question I'm asking you, your understanding is that you have approval for 2 tenancies. Can you just explain to me where you get that approval from? Not the fact that they are there.
No, I'm not saying about 2 tenancy. I'm telling here, no approval granted. That's what you said here in the report with a single occupancy. Is that right? Why did you mention that in specific?
Well, that's the facts.
No, the fact that when I bought the house, it's a flat, granny flat, and there is the house which is down. When I put the approval for the DA as a single tenancy, because it's my daughter, she's going to live in the top of that, so I don't mind. However, I need to have the flat to have a little bit like more privacy so that I can have another access to go from the kitchen to the outside, and for the safety issues. And that's the reason that I'm telling that if you want me to do that, you need to accept what I'm saying here, that we need to extend the carport to the end until reaching the the kitchen area for the flat, okay? And that will be like a private entrance for them, but still we will have it as a single tenancy, not as a two.
So other than the fact that you bought it with the understanding that it was two tenancies, you don't have any documentation that says there's an approval, a legal approval to have two
I
dwellings?
mean, unfortunately, you have that in the relevant history. You put that in your report.
Robin said, yep.
Yes, panel members and the property owner and the submitters.
Yes. This is Robin C, the assessment officer.
The assessment officer. Yeah. Maybe I could fill the panel in with regards to the history of this property. The property has gone through quite a fair bit of history, but I can draw your attention to page 9 of the report, which is the relevant history of the property.
Yep.
Yes.
Of the original, the main report, page 9.
Yes.
So the previous application and incidents, the bullet point, what I would like to draw your attention is, firstly, is in October 1987, there was an approval for the building application for the extension of the Den residential flat building with an extension, but it is to a single dwelling. And that was approved at that time with the addition, which is the 3-story rear addition with the terrace above to a single dwelling. And then in the further bullet point I would like to draw the panel attention is the bullet point to 18th of November 1991. It's the third from the bottom. The Supreme Court of New South Wales at that time ordered the termination of a strata plan, which was then applied to the residential flat building. So that is the termination of a strata plan, which is consistent with the approved DA back in 1987 for the premises to be used as a single dwelling, because the single dwelling is now the only permissible type of development in a E4 zone, and a dual occupancy under the current LEP is not a permissible type of development in an E4 zone. Thank you, panel.
Thank you. Thank you. That's how I understood it. Yes, thank you very much for clarifying that. So, Mr. Awawi, did you hear that?
Yes, I mean, when I bought the house, there is, I received 2 electricity bills, one for the...
But that doesn't count. That's something that's done in an unauthorised way. So you can't claim that.
Okay. I will check that. I will possibly talk to the solicitor regarding that.
Okay. Do we have any other issues that some of the panel members might like to ask a question?
No, thanks.
No, thanks.
No, Annalise?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, very well. There's no further submissions. I will close this matter and we'll move on to the next agenda item. Is the applicant nothing further to say, and your representatives?
I mean, I can amend if we will keep the carport, okay, but extend the door to the little bit to the outside for the safety issue, and we will have the garages. We will remove the deck and we will continue the ceiling as accepted here. Okay, I'm happy with that if this is the case.
Okay, rightio, thank you very much. So this matter will make a determination and our decision will be on the internet, hopefully by the end of the week, if not by next Monday night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well now moving on to the next matter, which is number 8. Number 8, which is 43 Haybury Street, Crow's Nest, and this is the modification to a previous consent for alterations and additions to a terrace. I don't have anyone listed here to speak. Sorry?
There was a submission.
Yes, just to note that the panel has received 2 written submissions in respect of this matter. So we don't have the applicant or the architect. They are available to contact if we need. I don't have any questions. Does anybody else have any questions on this one?
No questions from me.
Very well, we won't contact the applicant, even though we note that he did make himself available. Thank you very much. Now we will make a determination in our private session, and it'll be on the internet by the beginning of next week. The next item on the agenda is item number 9, which is 23/238 Falcon Street, Crow's Nest, and this is the installation of a window to an eastern elevation for unit number 23 and minor internal changes. I don't have any written submissions and I don't have any written requests. So this matter will be determined in private session, and all the decisions of the North Sydney Local Planning Panel will be available. I did originally say the end of the week. It may not happen until the beginning of next week. I would like to thank everybody for the participation in this, and in particular their patience with our technology, and in particular with my patience with my even less knowledge of technology. So thank you all very much, and I will now go into our private session. Thank you. Bye-bye.